The bombing of Hamburg, particularly Operation Gomorrah, is one of the most devastating examples of aerial warfare in history. For the people of Hamburg, the summer of 1943 brought unimaginable terror, loss, and destruction. The bombing campaign was part of the broader Allied strategy to weaken Nazi Germany by crippling its industrial capacity. But for the people on the ground, it turned their homes, neighborhoods, and lives into a hellish inferno. Setting the stage, Hamburg was Germany's second-largest city and a crucial center for the Nazi war machine. It was a hub of industrial activity, producing submarines, aircraft parts, engines, and weapons that fueled Germany's military. Its strategic location on the Elbe River made it a vital port city, allowing the transportation of goods and war materials throughout Europe. As such, Hamburg was a prime target for Allied forces, who were determined to strike at the heart of Germany's industrial might. By 1943, the Allies had refined their bombing tactics. British bombers, under the command of Arthur Bomber Harris, had adopted a strategy of area bombing, in which entire cities, rather than just specific military or industrial targets, were bombed in an effort to break the German war economy and morale. The American bombers, on the other hand, practiced precision bombing, focusing on key factories and installations. Operation Gomorrah was unique in that it combined both tactics into a coordinated assault on Hamburg. Operation Gomorrah, the start of the fire. Operation Gomorrah began on the night of July 24, 1943. The Royal Air Force, RAF, launched a massive nighttime raid, dropping incendiary bombs designed to start fires that would spread uncontrollably throughout the city. The following day, July 25th, the United States Army Air Forces, USAF, carried out a daylight bombing raid, targeting Hamburg's shipyards, oil refineries, and industrial plants. For the next 8 days, Hamburg was subjected to relentless bombing. The combined force of British and American bombers pounded the city day and night. The Allies dropped over 9,000 tons of explosives and incendiaries on the city over the course of the operation. The incendiary bombs were particularly devastating. Unlike high-explosive bombs, which caused immediate destruction, incendiaries were designed to set fires that would spread and overwhelm firefighting efforts. Hamburg's firefighting services were quickly exhausted as entire neighborhoods erupted into flames. The Firestorm, a night of horror. The bombing reached its catastrophic peak on the night of July 27 to 28, 1943, when a confluence of events created one of the most destructive phenomena in the history of warfare, a firestorm. A firestorm occurs when intense fires generate such extreme heat that they create their own weather system. The heat from the burning city caused a column of hot air to rise rapidly, drawing in cooler air from the surrounding areas. The incoming air fanned the flames, creating winds as strong as a hurricane. The firestorm that engulfed Hamburg that night was unlike anything ever seen before. Temperatures soared to over 1,000 degrees Celsius, 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit, igniting buildings, vehicles, and even trees. The intense heat melted metal and glass, while the wind fanned the flames into a roaring inferno. Entire city blocks were consumed in the blaze, and the fires were so intense that the oxygen in the air was sucked out, causing people to suffocate. In some areas, people were physically drawn into the flames by the hurricane-force winds. One survivor described the scene as hell on earth. Thousands of people who had sought refuge in basements and bomb shelters were trapped as the fires raged above them. The shelters, which were supposed to protect civilians from bombs, became death traps as the flames consumed all the oxygen. Many people suffocated or burned to death. The streets were littered with the bodies of those who had tried to flee but were overtaken by the firestorm. The human toll, unimaginable loss. The human cost of Operation Gomorrah was staggering. The firestorm alone is estimated to have killed around 42,600 civilians, many of them women and children. Another 37,000 were wounded. Those who survived were left traumatized, having witnessed unimaginable scenes of destruction and death. Tens of thousands of people were left homeless, their homes reduced to rubble. Entire families were wiped out, and those who survived were often left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The sheer scale of the destruction shocked the world. Hamburg's historic city center was almost completely destroyed, along with much of its industrial infrastructure. Over 250,000 homes were obliterated. Many iconic buildings and landmarks were lost forever. The port, once one of the busiest in Europe, was left in ruins, and industrial production came to a standstill for months. For the survivors, the psychological toll was immense. In addition to the physical destruction, many were left to mourn the loss of loved ones, friends, and neighbors. The bombing of Hamburg left deep emotional scars that would last long after the war had ended. Strategic and moral debate. While the bombing of Hamburg achieved its military objectives, crippling Germany's industrial capacity and disrupting its war effort, it also sparked a moral debate that continues to this day. The scale of civilian casualties and the sheer destructiveness of area bombing tactics led many to question the ethics of targeting entire cities and civilian populations. Operation Gomorrah, along with later bombing campaigns on cities like Dresden, became a symbol of the moral complexities of strategic bombing. On the other hand, some argue that the bombing was necessary to shorten the war. At the time, Germany was a formidable military power, and the Allies were desperate to weaken its ability to continue fighting. The devastation of cities like Hamburg was seen as a way to undermine German morale and break the will of the German people to support the war. Aftermath, rebuilding, and remembering. Despite the immense destruction, Hamburg's spirit was not broken. In the years following the war, the city was gradually rebuilt. The port, which had been vital to Germany's economy, was restored, and new factories and businesses replaced those that had been destroyed. Over time, Hamburg regained its status as one of Germany's leading cities. Today, Hamburg is a thriving, modern metropolis. But the scars of the past remain visible in certain areas, and the memory of the bombing has not been forgotten. Several memorials have been erected across the city to honor the victims of the bombing, and the events of 1943 are still commemorated by the people of Hamburg. One of the most prominent reminders is St. Nikolai Church, which was heavily damaged during the bombing and has been preserved as a memorial to the destruction of the war. The bombing of Hamburg stands as a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the immense human cost of strategic bombing. While it was a turning point in the Allied campaign against Nazi Germany, it also serves as a testament to the resilience of the people of Hamburg, who rebuilt their city from the ashes. A city transformed. Though Hamburg has been transformed into a vibrant and modern city, the legacy of Operation Gomorrah continues to resonate. The bombing left behind not only physical scars, but emotional ones as well. For those who lived through it, the memories of that summer in 1943 remain vivid. The sounds of the bombers, the heat of the flames, the loss of loved ones. Even for those who were not alive at the time, the bombing has become a part of the city's identity, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastation of war. The bombing of Hamburg, like the bombing of Coventry and Dresden, remains a powerful symbol of the destruction that modern warfare can bring, and it serves as a reminder to future generations of the importance of seeking peace and avoiding the horrors of total war.